U.S. middle-aged white Americans with relatively low education are experiencing rising mortality from alcoholism, drug addiction, and suicide. Now that's all at the same time that every other racial and ethnic group somehow has decreased, but this has increased. So something has gone terribly wrong. This seems to be, as I read and read and read, a point that is taken on the side of both Republican and Democratic campaigns, so somehow you can be seen in one way or another. So maybe explain, if you can explain, why is it that middle-aged white Americans are killing themselves?
Well, you've said what we know. I mean, what we disclosed was the fact, and it's pretty astonishing that no one had noticed this fact before. The CDC was jumping up and down with glee that the white-black mortality gap was closing, but a lot of that was happening because whites were dying in larger numbers. And so this turnaround is just historically an astonishing state of affairs, because we've been used for the best part of 100 years to this steady mortality decline. And for this group, this very important middle-aged group, this mortality rate has really turned around. And when we first found it, and we said, well, what's causing it? We went through the things, and was it a decline in heart attack? Was the war on cancer losing? Was the war on heart attacks losing? No, these are all doing just fine. I mean, is it murders? Is it traffic accidents? No, it's not those things. So what is it? It's largely poisonings. And we thought, my God, what has happened? Are people mistaking Drano for milk or something? What? And of course, poisonings is what the CDC classifies as drug overdoses. And you don't want to think about this. A lot of it is heroin overdoses, which is what we're used to, but a lot of it is opioid overdoses. These are legal painkillers that are being subscribed in incredible numbers. The US is consuming about 95% of all of the world's supplies of opioid painkillers, and enough opioid painkillers are prescribed in the United States every year for every adult in the United States to be on opioids for 1 month a year. I mean, there's just an incredible outpouring of this stuff, and it's killing people. Now,
you said you also stumbled onto this. Can you explain?
Well, we were working on suicide, and we wanted to put suicide in the context of overall mortality, and then we saw for this group that overall mortality, it was not just suicides, it was this poisonings as well. But you asked me why what has this got to do with globalization and why? So I've always taken, like most people who work on global poverty, I spent a lot of my life, and the Nobel Committee was kind enough to cite it, thinking about how to measure global poverty and global inequality. And I've always taken the position, which is, I've done a lot of work over the years with the World Bank, and I think this is a pretty accepted in those organizations cosmopolitan position, that globalization has dragged or pulled or liberated hundreds of millions of people from poverty in India and in China in particular. And those people were really poor to start with. So this is just like an incredibly major achievement in the world. So when you think the world is going to hell in a handbasket, which it sort of is right now, you have to look back on those amazing achievements. And a lot of those have come from opening up markets, from greater international trade, from all the things we know about. And the sort of cosmopolitan position is, okay, maybe some people in the US and Western Europe were hurt by this process, but they're really well off compared with the people in China and India who are being helped. So if you take this sort of position that we prefer to help people who are poorer than people who are richer, then this seemed like a pretty good thing. And so, however, when you see these middle-aged people, and these are the people in the US who are bearing the brunt of this, these are the people who used to have good factory jobs with on-the-job training. These are the people who could build good lives for themselves and for their kids. And all of that has gone away. The factories in Cambodia, the factories in Vietnam, the factories in China, wherever. And there's been a lot of dispute between the right and left as to how badly off they are. Are the price indices correct? Are median wages really falling and so on? But when you actually see them killing themselves, and the mortality rates are going up, then you think something really, really is seriously has gone wrong. One of my colleagues, an anthropologist, Carolyn Rouse, has used the term, these people have lost the narrative of their lives. Now, Pamela asked me the question, why? We don't know why is the answer. And of course, everybody has their theory. And that's where, but I mean, it's hard to believe it's not connected up with this 20 or 30 years of declining economic prospects for people with only a high school education in the United States. And somehow we've got to find a way. I'm not against globalization. I'm certainly not going to go for protectionist solutions or something. But we've got to find a way of sharing the benefits with those people too. And if not with them, at least with their kids. There's a new book by Kathy Eden, which also gave me pause. They've documented that a large number of people in the United States living on less than $2 a day. And that's the World Bank's global standard for global poverty. So some of these people who've been left behind are as poor as the poorest people in India and China. And we've really got to think much harder about this than we have.